Hello, this is an ad hoc screencast to go over the process of creating a trend panel with a superset of trends just for comma separated value export of those trend values. This is Michael Guest, VP of Research and Clinical Applications for Persist. Let's go ahead and jump in. This is a configuration for a reduced electrode set recording, and we want to add a panel that has just the panels or just the trends we want for CSV export. Because we have FFT by channel for this reduced electrode set, we have AEEG by channel, and we want to combine them into a superset. And let's look at some other items as well as we do this, just to point out some configuration options. The other thing we want to do, let's say, is to set up this heart rate trend. Inevitably, facilities will have different designations for the EKG channels, and I'll show how to do that in the process as well. So let's go ahead and clear the trends. Now, if we didn't clear the trends, it'd prompt us to do that anyway. So I'm going to go to Preferences and Modify Template, and it's going to ask me to clear the trends. The reason for that is we may be changing parameters that could alter the trend display in a way that would require recalculation. Without going into the weeds on that, I'm just going to pick the 6-channel trend template to modify. And the first thing I want to do is set up the EKG channel. Now, this recording is a test recording. Your channels may be different. So to see which one is my EKG channel, I'm going to switch from this reduced montage to the recorded montage, which shows all the channels that are coming in. And I can see down here I've got X1 to Y1 is my channel. I can even reduce the gain here to confirm, yep, X1 to Y1 is the EKG channel. So first thing I can do is configure that. And I'm just going to set this back to our imaginary reduced electrode set. Click the heart rate label, EKG channel, and I'm going to go ahead and use this custom one. These other options are if you have multiple conventions within the same facility for EKG channels. So I'm going to select X1, and since I don't see Y1 in the list, I'm just going to pick a reference and select OK. My red exclamation point has gone away there. So that part is done. I'm going to move these other displays out of the way just by clicking the X. Let's go ahead and look at our other trend panels. We have FFT by channel, and we have AEEG by channel. And I want to bring these together to make it easier to do comma separated value export. So I can create a new trend panel through Add Panel, or I can duplicate a panel if it already has some of the trends I want. Let's do the duplicate. It'll save us some work. So FFT by channel already has the spectrograms I want, and I'm going to duplicate this panel and just call it CSV export. And to do that, it's created FFT by channel 01. I'm going to rename this to CSV export. That's done. Now when I add trends to this panel, so I'll select the Add button, and these trends are already built. They're in the other panel, so I don't have to recreate them by new trend. They're already here. So I'm going to select this by mouse select, hold down the Shift key or the Control key, and I can select individually the ones I want to add, select OK. Now I've got these, and I'm going to select Add. Let's say I want my heart rate trend as well. I have to scroll down the list here and go to heart rate and select OK. So let's save this where I'm at. So I'm going to click Preferences, Trend Preferences, and we'll click Save. And then OK. Now this has become the default trend panel because I created it and saved it with that displayed. If I want a different trend panel to be the default, let's say I wanted that versus baseline spectrograms to be the default trend panel every time I open this, then I just select the trend panel that I want to be the default, select Save, and that becomes the default trend panel. All that means is that I have to select a different one if I want that to be displayed. So once I'm done with this, I can close this and ask me if I want to save those changes. I say yes. Now in the original window, this still has that exclamation point here. because it still has the original trend panel that I started with loaded in memory. So go to Trend Preferences, Open, and let's select that one that we just modified. Select OK, and this is the one that we modified. Now, you can stop here, or we can do a little bit more work to show how to export these trends from that custom trend panel. Let's do that. I'm going to click Process, and we're going to put out some of this data into the trend. And we won't have to do too much of this. We'll let it run for a little while. And once I've got enough data, I'll go ahead and click Pause, just visually enough data. And let's say I wanted to export these. Well, I'm going to select the Trends button so I have just the trends displayed. Because if I have both displayed, when I go to Export Channel Trend Values, well, I've got both up on the screen. So I'll select just the trends, and I can highlight these by using the mouse and the Control key, or I can just click on the control bar on the left, hold down the Shift key, select the very last trend, and now they're all highlighted. Now if I go to Tools and Export Channel Trend Values, it's going to do the entire range of data that's been calculated. It's going to ask me where to save that. I'll just drop it on the desktop for now. And it's exported the values for these trends all in one trend output as CSV, or I can pick individual. So if I wanted to do my FFTs, because the export from that, they'll all be the same format. It'll be in columns by frequency bin and rows by epoch. I can do those and export them, and then I can select the next range of trends. Again, Shift and mouse select. So select this range, Tools, Export Channel Trend Values. I'll do the whole range of this and go back to the desktop, and I'm just going to call this AEG. So now it's exported the AEG values. And that's the process of exporting that. Now let's look at one other thing that may be of importance. Notice that these are set to square root. And the reason for that is we typically have a lot more amplitude in the lower frequency ranges than we have in the upper frequency ranges, and that can make scaling these spectrograms a bit tricky for visual analysis. So what happens here is it takes the square root of each microvolt value that is calculated. Now you may want to use a different convention. You may want to use either microvolts or microvolts squared. So I just click on the label here. I can go to Spectrum and see these are set to square root. So if I wanted to make that change a global change and switch this, let's say, to microvolts, I'm going to go ahead and modify this trend template again. So let's go ahead and go to Preferences, Modify Template. It's going to clear those trends. That's okay. Open this up. And I can highlight these. Now this will change it across through the other trend panels as well, by the way. This will change those to display microvolts instead of the square root values of those. So I'm just going to do these one at a time. Click on the label, Spectrum, and I'm going to change each one of these to microvolt output. Now, since I'm no longer taking the square root values of this, I can change the scaling, double that from 2 to 4, because again, these values will be larger now. They're not the square root of those. And I can save this trend panel, Trend Preferences. Just go over to your Panels tab, whichever one you want to be the default trend panel, if you want it to be the CSV, or if you want it to be the versus baseline spectrograms, whichever one you select before you hit Save becomes the default. Select OK, and I can close this editing window. Confirms that I want to make those changes. Say yes. And again, this is still the original one I had open. It's still showing square root. Let's open that new trend template. Trend Preferences, Open, and I'm going to go ahead and pick this one, and we'll process. That's the one I set as my default trend, but again, it's calculating them for all the panels. Let's select our CSV export. And now these are showing up. You can see the colors are brighter here because it's no longer taking those square root values. More blooming. Square root is not as efficient for visual analysis, but for exporting values, the main thing is that you're consistent with your units, or if you're going to compare it to other documents and so forth. I'll just open this dialog again, whether it's microvolts squared, microvolts, or square root, decibels, less frequently used. The units of measure can be changed to be consistent with other analysis that you may be performing. And that's it. This is Michael Guest, VP of Research and Clinical Applications for Persist. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, show one more thing. Again, I think I've already done this, but you can select any subset of trends just by using the Control key and the Shift key and select. So if I want just spectrograms to be exported or just AEG to be exported, whatever ones I've highlighted here, when I go to Tools and Export Channel Trend Values, I've not set a range, it'll do the entire range of data. So again, that's a AEG. I'm going to overwrite that and output the data. So I did cover that already. All right, that's the end of the screencast. Again, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to connect by web conference. Thanks.